As long as I can remember, I've had a strong feeling that this isn't really home, that I don't quite fit here. While I was growing up, I lived with a violent father whose attacks were always a threat. He also hit my sister and mom. When I was 12, my parents got a divorce. Part of me was glad, but another part of me was having a hard time with the mental upheaval. My older sister moved out of state to go to college, and my mother was very sad, even though she was caring, kind, and helpful. At that point, I started hanging out with the wrong people. Some of my friends were honest, but others lied to me. When I was 15, I ran away from home and had some scary experiences on the streets, like being taken by a crazy cocaine dealer. I've had PTSD since I was a child because my father abused me. These days, I'd rather be alone with a few close friends I can trust than try to please everyone like I used to. I felt like I had been through a personal war. In 1989, I was surrounded by cruel attackers. Headaches and migraines kept happening to me every day, and I finally gave up. I was broken emotionally. My mom seemed to be coming apart, and I didn't have any family to lean on. I was stuck with bad, corrupt people. Someday, I went back to my waterbed to wait for the pills that I had mixed with booze to start working. My mind wasn't filled with specific thoughts. It was only strong feelings, saying to my body, "It's time. The time has come for me to leave." Whatever it was, I was ready to let it go. Suddenly, I felt a strong, strange thump in my chest, and everything went dark. After a few seconds, I looked down at my best friend and saw that she was crying and calling for my mom in a crazy state. When my mom ran into the room, I wasn't sure what was going on at first. Someone was in my bed, and they were freaking out about it. I couldn't figure out who that person was. Then I looked more closely and saw a face I knew. It was mine. "Oh, that's my body," I thought for a moment afterward. "Oh, poor thing. Goodbye, old friend," I thought, with a strange lack of ties. I felt a little bad that I didn't really worry about how my mom would feel if I died, but I knew she'd be fine in a year. A sudden, intense sense of freedom hit me like a rush of pure happiness and freedom. I was free from my body's restrictions and could fully accept who I was. I felt a rush of confidence and even courage. As I slowly rose into the air, I saw the same things below, but now they had more colors, shapes, and even feelings to them. It may sound strange, but even the molecules in the wooden ceiling I floated through felt like they were stuck in a state of energy. I saw the pool and the roof of my condo complex, and then sped up. Soon, I was above the clouds and under the stars. When I saw the moon, it looked different. It had a purple glow that I hadn't seen before. It looked like purple was everywhere until I went into a swirling dark. Later, I understood that what I was seeing were the reflections of other spiritual forces, like mine, in space. It was darker where I was now, that I was farther from the stars. But I wasn't paying much attention because I was so happy with my sudden freedom. I walked right in without giving it a second thought. I was too excited to think about anything else. It felt so new and exciting everywhere. I was getting used to my new senses and understanding how much I could understand, even though I didn't have eyes. I was in a huge area of thick darkness that was slowly moving around with a low, dull roar and a kind of hum in the background. The material kept moving in a steady, known path. It didn't feel dangerous or friendly. It was just neutral, not good or bad. That's all there was to it. Just There, after a short time, I felt other beings getting closer, and I knew right away that they weren't nice. Their goals toward me were bad, and all of a sudden, I felt very weak. I did not know if I was protected or had the power to fight off these bad things. I could feel who they were, their thoughts, feelings, and identities as they got closer. I knew they weren't people, but I wasn't sure what they were. They began reading my mind, which I didn't like. That scared me. Their thoughts and feelings started to get in the way of mine, and I really wanted it to stop, but I didn't know how. The creatures that followed the lead creature didn't have any eyes, noses, or mouths, and their bodies didn't look like anything regular. They looked like twisted shapes of terrible pain and suffering. The leader himself was huge, 18 to 20 feet tall, and had a shape that was a mix of red and orange. It didn't have a gender or a body in the way we think of it, but its energy gave off the intelligence of a crazy serial killer. Someone cruel and uncaring. Its influence was overwhelming, and it was full of hate and anger. As they got closer, the boss spoke to me in a voice that sounded like it was on fire. Deep down, it hated me very much. "Why are you so mad at me?" I asked straight out. "What are you? I don't get it. Why do you hate me so much? Don't you even know who you are?" was the first thing it spat back. Not sure what to say, I said, "No, who am I?" The boss looked like he was about to lose it with anger. It yelled, "God the Father, don't you know you're his child? It's not right. You should be just as doomed as we are." I felt a real wave of fear at that moment. I cried out right away, "Jesus, save me!" Because I was so desperate. "I'm scared. Christ, where are you? Please help me." As soon as I called on him, I knew for sure that I would be saved. As soon as the light of Jesus came toward me, the devils quickly started to run away. I was suddenly pulled out of the swirling darkness and into a tube that was bright and strong. It covered me, and I knew right away that I was safe because I was surrounded by love, goodness, knowledge, and power. Jesus hugged me, but he wasn't a real person. He was a being of light, a bright white and golden light that didn't hurt my eyes. Health, kindness, loyalty, safety, integrity, trust, honesty, omniscience, and kingly power were all shown in this light. As his soul wrapped around mine, I felt all of my pain being washed away and fixed. It was an unimaginable sense of peace that only lasted as long as we were linked. The size of Jesus' spirit was huge, about 500 feet wide and 1,000 feet high. I knew right away that it was him. He comforted me and calmed my fears. He also said that since I was already with him, he would show me my life to help me understand things better and be more patient when I went back to my body. I refused to go back because I didn't want to. He knew I was upset, so he was very patient and kind with me. I felt safe enough in him to believe and listen to him, so I did. I felt blessed and calm at that very moment, better than any other time in my life. Everything Jesus wanted to say to me, I was ready to hear. The area we were in felt like a special part of heaven, but I didn't see any family or friends. It felt like this section was just for me. I felt and saw everything I had ever said or done during my life review. I saw how my acts affected other people, whether I meant to or not. It was like seeing ripples in the water. Jesus showed me what I am made of and told me that each soul has a different job to do based on where it came from and what it has done with its life. No matter what happened, how they reacted to love and goodness was the most important thing. He told me that I was good enough, and even though I had some flaws, I would grow up and be sent to heaven just because of who I am. Who am I, and what's the big deal? Jesus said that there are different stages of being good. Some people can be good, and if they try hard enough, they can get to heaven. Some people are naturally very good, which makes it easy for them to get to heaven. They are the children and grandchildren of God's first force, and God is drawing them back to Himself. I told Jesus that I didn't understand God, and that the pain on earth was still making me mad. Jesus told me that being mad at God was like being mad at my own arm or leg. It didn't make sense. He told us that each of us is here on earth to serve a spiritual role. I told him I was too tired to keep doing my job and didn't want to do it anymore. Jesus' face showed that he was worried, but it also looked like he was almost pleased. Our talk was quick and easy to understand. He told me that many souls have been picked to be witnesses for God. The pain and bad things that happened to me were not because I was bad, but because evil wants to destroy everything good. Evil takes advantage of people's flaws. Jesus gave me a glimpse of how God sets up the world and told me I couldn't bring back any knowledge of how it all works. He told me that knowing this would get in the way of my spiritual growth. I only remember understanding how hard that part was, which made it clear that no one could fully understand it in the first place. I finally got it. Jesus was going to send me back to my body, no matter what I said. I had work to do for myself and for God that I hadn't finished in this life. I was still a little sad to be leaving Him because I loved being with Him, but I knew I had to go back. The year 2004 was a lot like 1989 for me. I felt like I couldn't take it any longer. I was in a lot of pain, feeling very alone, and surrounded by people who only used me without really helping me. To not wake up after taking pills, I tried to run again. Stress and poisons were too much for my body to handle, and the left side of my body went limp. I think I might have had a TIA stroke because my arm felt heavy and strange, but I'll never know for sure. At that very moment, I felt what I thought was a deep, booming thunder. It was a voice, both inside and outside of my head, telling me, I am with you. You can do this. Don't move from where you are. I started to cry and breathe quickly. After that, I felt like I had left my body for the second time ever. I knew what it was like to go through the ceiling and into space, passing the stars. This time, though, I ran away from the darkness and yelled for Jesus. I saw Jesus as the lovely, familiar light of love again, but this time there was something new behind Him, something so big it filled the whole room. It was like a huge range of spirits, like Jesus was 1,000,000,000 times bigger. It was God. God the Father had a serious talk with me. He told me I couldn't leave my body again, and that I had to finish my job on earth. It wasn't just for His glory, it was also for my own mental health. God told me that if I ever tried to kill myself again, He could stop me, either by sending someone to stop me or making the attempt fail. I had fear, sadness, and a little shame. I begged Him more honestly than ever, telling Him how desperate I was and how lonely I felt. What can I do? My family can't help me. I feel so alone. It was a loud, loving voice that didn't hurt me. And God spoke back. You have never been alone in your life. No matter what, I have been there and am ready to be with you whenever you call out to me. Christ's gift to me has also been worked through. You are my child, and I love you. You are my child, and I love you. I'll say it again so you remember. Then God showed me a vision, like a movie, that showed how spiritually much I've grown. Even if I don't fully understand it yet, He told me He was proud of me and that my journey was almost over. I was told that if I could finish my work here, I would have all the love and peace I needed for all time. I said I was sorry and promised to do my best. I reminded myself that the pain I felt in this life and in my body would be lost once I got to heaven. God and Jesus both told me that I would go to heaven because that was my destiny. I would fit right into God's big plan once I finished my spiritual journey and my work for Him.